love my girl. She looking good. Come on. One more. 5 to 1, baby. 1 in 5. No one here gets out alive now. You get yours, baby. I'll get mine. Gonna make it, baby, if we try.
I'm very bored with it, for a start. I mean, I've been modelling for nearly 4 years now. Some time.
The 60s and 70s were the blueprint for supermodels and colour. It's where it all began, although I don't really want to get into that. Let's skip to where everyone actually thinks it started. It didn't actually. Well, actually, if you really want to get into it, fashion began since we started wearing clothes, but oh, never mind.
Sit here lonely like a broken man. Sell my time and doing the best I can. Powers and balls that surrounding me, but I don't want your sympathy. Yeah.
The 90s are known for the era of iconic supermodels: Naomi, Cindy, Christy, Kate, Linda, just to name a few. The 90s would be a time of elegance and major pop culture. Truly, it was the start of a brilliant time. Designers like Gianni Versace, John Galliano, Tom Ford and Calvin Klein were just some of the most influential creatives at the time.
Good evening. How very charming to see you, as always. I want you to mind my cufflinks, which will tell you that it is 12:30, nearly 25 to 1 in London, and 25 to 8 in the evening in New York. Genuine working clocks that are also cufflinks.
With breathtaking excitement by the media, this show confirmed that he is indeed the greatest designer of our time.
The idea was to redefine the look of Dior. So when you saw a lady walking down the street, is the new Miss Dior. Redefine the fit, bring in a lightness, less Roman, which it had been to date, and modern, and very feminine, very feminine.
Isn't it a bizarre mix to mix fashion and food? Because obviously models have to keep to quite a strict regime.
No, they don't actually. It's kind of a personal choice, and it's not at all a strange mix. We all eat. Great to say.
Thanks so much.
We're now going to look at one side of the fashion business that's concerning many, the growing number of young girls on the catwalks who are as thin as rakes. Is this really the image that the fashion business want to portray?
The supermodels are getting thinner. This means that if the young person gets hold of the idea that the way to feel good about yourself is to slim, to be like a supermodel, she finds that she's battling against her natural body structure, which is to actually be bigger, and in consequence, she's at risk.
And models too, more than aware of the aesthetic perfection required to succeed within the industry, are also subject to the enormous pressures to be slim.
When I was in Milan last season, I saw girls on the catwalk that I knew were anorexics, and that every designer or fashion editor had quite clearly chosen to ignore this fact.
But now at least, some model agencies are seeing it as their responsibility to look after their girls and take action if the pressure becomes too much.
If she's not naturally of slim build, I don't advise that they come into this industry to begin with. If it's a problem that develops once they're with an agency, in my opinion, as parent agent, I would want to take care of it and address the situation as opposed to turn a blind eye.
Let's skip forward to the start of a new chapter in fashion, or the start of a major problem.
You're running around so much. I mean, you
you're really going crazy these days.
Yeah, I mean the shows is always harder than like other times because you kind of do like more than one show a day and you wake up early and you do fittings and you go to another show, so you kind of like always running around, This season is a bit easier for me because I'm taking a bit easier, but it's still a bit, it's still a bit crazy sometimes.
For over a year now, Giselle Bundchen has been the fashion industry's busiest and highest paid model, earning a lofty $7,000 an hour for her services, a number not seen since the era of the supermodel. In the last year, her career has skyrocketed. She's worked with every major designer, been on the most important magazine covers, and took home Model of the Year at the 1999 Vogue VH1 Fashion Awards.
The winner is Giselle!
Hi, we're at Tommy. This is Carly, Ali, and me, and we're talking about shoes. These girls have big feet.
I have like the biggest fear of my shoes falling off. Yeah. So I'd much rather be like stuffing my feet in, breaking toes, than like losing a shoe.
It might be glamorous, but it's impossible not to notice how thin many of the models are. And right now, behind the bright lights and makeup, debate is raging in the fashion world over the issue of ultra-skinny models.
I just think it's too simplistic to blame fashion. Fashion is part of the problem, but it's not the whole problem.
But last year, there was disaster. Young Brazilian model Ana Carolina Reston died of anorexia. Her death created a storm of bad publicity for the fashion world. One of Australia's leading designers, Alice McCaw, is showing her latest collection here in London. But she says all the controversy about super slim models is a media beat-up.
When we talk about this whole body image issue, you are focusing on the problem. It's like it's sensationalism to a degree. Oh, girl dies of anorexia. Oh, another girl dies of anorexia. Oh, headlines, sell papers.
New York was really thin this season. Like, they were taking a lot of 14, 15-year-old girls, so everybody was super, super skinny.
I mean, model has to be beauty and the body and the shape.
And sexual, too.
Sexual, 14, 15, they have nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
I think it's wrong.
All the girls are a size 0 right now, too, is because they're just young girls. They're all 15, 16 years old. And everybody was that thin when they were 14 or 15. They didn't start puberty yet.
I think it's very clever and very intelligent because the health is 100 times more important than the image. I think we are in a period of the history that image is becoming too much important, and that's a very silly thing, no? Now I am very much interested in, ¿cómo se llaman los adolescentes? Teens. In teens.
Being a mother of a teenage daughter has helped shape Agatha's opinions on the debate.
That's Cosima, my daughter. She's 16. Thanks God she don't have problems with anorexia, but some of her friends are beginning to have little obsessions about not eating and things like that.
Why is that?
Well, mostly because they're really obsessed with fashion, they read lots of magazines, and, well, you see in the media most people who are famous are really skinny, and big designers only make clothes for, like, small sizes, so they feel that to get famous they, like, need to be skinny.
What would some of the models do to try and lose weight?
I do want to clarify that this is just a small percentage of the modelling industry, and I have discussed this over the past few days. I think if you really look at the top supermodels, anybody that had longevity in their career was obviously staying in shape the right way. But I certainly heard stories over time that there were, drastic means that the girls were using to stay catwalk size, and definitely, I mean, it was one season, and it was a few years back, probably the thinnest season that I remember. And a model agent told me that, you know, some of the girls had resorted to eating tissues, which I'd never heard of.
I don't think people realize, I mean, it really comes down to an inch or an inch and a half. There's so many beautiful girls and there's such a competitive world.
Feed me. I want some bread.
They train like professional athletes.
How amazing is it? How fashion can crash in a second? It went from counting how many designs are in a collection to designing how many deaths are in a year. Tragic, really.
What has been so normalized for humanity for so long, the perspective came when I had daughters. I'm a mother to 2 girls, and you know, over my dead body, I have them normalizing, you know, behavior that shouldn't be normal. It should be called out. So I felt a deep obligation to speak about my life and what my experience has been as a model, as a mom, as a woman at this time. And also as a Western woman, you know, we have a responsibility. There's other countries where women cannot speak out. They'll be stoned to death, they'll be beheaded, they'll be ostracized, or, you know, acid thrown in their faces. So I just, I feel it's really, really important. Being sexualized and objectified and spoken about as if you weren't there in the room, inappropriate touching, inappropriate comments. I mean, it was part of the job. And there were other, you know, and this whole idea of being complicit if you're not speaking up. There were women, other women who saw this behavior going on. There were agents. So it wasn't just, you know, between me and one person. It was like a whole fucking community of people that condoned this behavior.
If you're a girl with natural hair, oh, that's unprofessional, can you straighten out your hair? Even girls with like loose curls were made to chemically straighten their hair.
Do you ever feel that you're being hired as the black girl? Is that a constant thing?
Definitely.
Like you're the
token.
The token.
Tokenism is still something that the fashion industry needs to work on. You can see a campaign and there will be an array of different women, but it will still always be a majority white women. I don't like it when I go on set and I'm the only black person, full stop.
They believe by hiring a darker skinned black woman, or a black woman in general, that they are marking off that box of diversity.
It's our turn to shape the fashion industry into a space where everyone and all can be peacefully heard. As awful as the world is right now, the creative aspect of our lives can be fixed. We don't need to count deaths or pretend that things are getting better. A human shouldn't be forced into unnatural habits to fit into a size. A voice shouldn't be silenced solely just because they're trying to express themselves. And a stereotype shouldn't be an excuse for the constant increases of a major problem affecting people worldwide. An industry of a creative passion that drives so many voices together where it's meant to collaborate. Where it's meant to join together and dignify who we are, what we believe, what we see, where our imagination takes us. It shouldn't have to be like this. It shouldn't have to be so hard to project their creativity and passion onto a blank canvas and destroy their base. Things are changing slowly, but our voices must be heard.
When the truth is found to be
you still feel that way about modeling?
Well, look, being a model, you gotta face it, you're not in brain surgery or cancer research. You live on the way you look.
Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody?
My ex-boyfriend and I got in a giant fight. I kind of went into this like really, really low place where I just like couldn't eat, just kind of lost like a lot of weight from that. And then when I went into my agency and I took digitals, I got all these options. Was when I was like the sickest I've ever been.
I went to meet with the agency and they measured me and they told me that I needed to lose, I think it was like 2 inches off my hips and maybe 2 off my waist. I was a perfectionist, so I associated doing a good job with modeling with losing the weight. So I did. And it started out as just being more mindful, I guess. And then it did escalate and escalate and escalate.